النظام كنا احنا في خطين جيشين متقابلين. الدولة كانت موجودة بيناتنا.
ايه بعدين بكره تصير فينا هيك من داعش من النظام.
يعرف الناس
This is the heart of Aleppo, one of the world's oldest cities, now a wasteland of war. Since the war reached Aleppo 2 years ago, Syria's industrial and commercial capital has been the scene of bitter house-to-house fighting as both the rebels and the regime struggle for overall control. Vice News spent 2 weeks with rebel fighters from the Islamic Front coalition as they struggle to hold their positions. While the Islamic Front rebels have placed government-held West Aleppo under siege, their stronghold in Aleppo's ancient old city has come under threat from a regime push to cut off their supply line to Turkey in the north. Now the Islamic State, the most powerful single force in Syria, is the real threat, advancing towards Aleppo from the east.
I think we're in a building directly underneath regime positions.
Most of Aleppo's residents have fled the city, with just a handful of civilians and rebel fighters holding on in the shattered ruins. Whoever controls Aleppo will win the war in Syria.
He just lobbed a grenade over. Now the regime are firing back, it's firing right at this wall. It's the Adliya Mosque. There's ancient monuments of Aleppo, one of the oldest buildings in one of the oldest cities in the world. And it's just been completely pulverised by the war. It's just this completely eerie, post-apocalyptic world. The old city's completely deserted. There's only fighters from the Islamic Front, from the Tawhid Brigade left here. Most civilians have fled. The Tawhid Brigade, they've surrounded government troops in the citadel, about 100 metres in that direction. In turn, government forces, government reinforcements are pushing south, trying to cut off the old city, trying to surround the rebels and retake Aleppo. But for the moment, it's just a war of snipers.
The Islamic Front is the strongest rebel force in Aleppo, overwhelmingly made up of fighters from the Tawhid Brigade, a former Free Syrian Army group linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. When Gulf-funded Islamist groups began to receive more supplies than the secular-leaning FSA units like the Tawhid Brigade joined the new Islamist coalition, the Islamic Front. But US pressure on the Islamic Front's former sponsor, Qatar, has drastically cut off their supply line. Squeezed between the regime and the Islamic State and ignored by the West, they're in a perilous position. Abu Amr, an Islamic Front commander, brought us to the district of Aleppo's old city under his control.
فمعناته احنا اذا اعتبرنا انه لحد الان صامد الجيش الحر، معناته لولا الدولة طالعة كان النظام انهار. الجبهة الإسلامية يمكن ما راح يدعموها، الجبهة الإسلامية ما راح تندعم لأنه في عندهم أفكار إسلامية، بس أنتم تلاقوا علمانيين يحكموا البلد الشعب ما راح يرضى. أنتم بدكم تقبلوا بإسلاميين معتدلين، إذا المفروض والله يقبلوا بإسلاميين معتدلين. إلا في أنجلينا جولي بس معتدل، هذا المعتدل هذا المعتدل. نيكول كيدمان. نيكول كيدمان.
نيكول كيدمان يبقى.
اوكي. هذا هو الاعتدال عندنا.
وين النظام؟
نظام هيك. هذا بفرجيك اياه.
Jailed for years in Syria's infamous Sednaya prison for membership of the Muslim Brotherhood, like many Islamists, Abu Amr was released by the regime in the first days of the revolution. He immediately took up arms against Assad.
So we're being led on a tour of frontline positions around narrow alleyways in the old city. You can see they've put barrels filled with sand and sandbags. No, because the snipers are in a tall building and a high point they can shoot down into here. You can see bullet holes in the wall all around us, so it's a means of protection.
هاي الجيش هون كله عدو والطلقات مرصودة ب100 مليار. هون ليكو ردي هو فوق يلا ناف سبوني.
With both rebels and regime too exhausted to defeat each other, the war in Aleppo has devolved into a constant grinding war of attrition for individual buildings.
دخلت طلقات جواتها تتخيل.
They're shouting at the fighters here, they're taunting them, and they're shooting at them.
يطلع لفوق ومعه دحى جمال كلهم الحياة. الله أكبر.
Let's say go inside now. Sniper nest has been completely ruined by the war. It's been completely pummeled by shelling. It would have been a nice house before the war, a gorgeous house. There's a painting on the wall. It's still got garlic hanging up on the wall there. Regime snipers are in that way. They're telling us to move a bit quickly. This points out the regime flag. Not far away at all, about 50 metres, less than that. There's like pot shots overhead.
ضرب واحد ثاني بعده في الجنوب الثاني كمان روحنا البيوت. اي والله.
Salam. It's weird, it's almost like a sort of playground of war. Like they're just taking over a whole city. Like they can just wander into any house they want, do whatever they want to it, turn it into a base, turn it into a firing position.
It's Ramadan, and fighters and civilians are making their way to an Islamic Front kitchen to draw their rations for the iftar meal breaking their fast.
Salam.
In a frontline position in the city's ruined souk, we'd been invited to break the fast with Islamic Front fighters.
It's where they hang out. Listen to music, they've got CCTV there, they're watching whether or not the enemy try and infiltrate from here, whether the government forces try and come through here. This looks like it's part of the old souk. Like, these were once grand merchants' houses, completely wrecked now.
تصرف يا ابني.
الجبهة الإسلامية كلها أدب وأخلاق. شلون نسكب القليل من السلطة في الصحن.
It's pretty relaxed. The sun's setting, birds are chirping. You can hear the sound of a MiG flying overhead and then the sound of the bombs it released, landing somewhere in Aleppo.
انت؟
ما أدري يلا.
شو بدك من عندك؟
ما بعرف. أدنى كابول أدنى بيتقبل.
داعشي متشدد.
هذا قائد هون استشهد من كم يوم. استشهد. هلا توصل برميل كنا.
بس بعيد. بعيد كثير.
It's pretty surreal. I mean, we're like essentially camping out in this ancient courtyard, smoking nargila, drinking tea. The government forces are about 50 metres in that way. And that way, you can hear them shooting overhead constantly. You can hear helicopters flying overhead constantly, dropping barrel bombs a kilometre, 2 kilometres away. For us, just dropping in here, the whole thing seems completely surreal. But for them, this is normal life. This is what every day's been like for the past 2 years.
عندك بأي دولة أوروبية إذا بينقتل شخص أو شخصين خلال مظاهرة تنشال الحكومة كلها. ما عدى على الأرض أعتى وأظلم من هيك نظام مجرم دمر العباد والبلاد هلك كلياته مشان الكرسي مشان يتم ويقعد على الكرسي رئيس بالتعاون مع إيران وروسيا وحزب الله في لبنان عليهم رحمة الله. هلا أنتم عندكم في لندن إذا الإنسان بينجرح صح؟ يعني نحن عم بروح راسهم مثل بعضها، ما شلون؟ مصيبة. المسلم صار ما بيسوى شيء. أنا عندي محل ببيع فيه أدوات صحية وكهربائية وكل شيء، في المساكن هنانو. وعندي بيتي هنيك وبيتي كويس الحمد لله ومستور وعايش مستقل. فجأة صار الطيران اللي يشتغل بشكل عنيف على مساكن هنانو. صار يضرب البراميل براميل الناس كلها طفشت ما تم ولا انسي ولا جني. اضطريت انزح على تركيا على الحدود. طلعت هيك بدي اضل قاعد بدون ما ادافع عن بلدي مصيبه. فتركت عيلتي هنيك وجيت انضميت لهالكتيبه هاي هون مشان اولا لنيه الجهاد في سبيل الله ولا مشان ندافع عن مالنا وارضنا وعرضنا. يعني هاوس نو ما بقى بيت هاوس ما بقى محل ما
You, the Islamic Front, you see Daesh as terrorists.
أكيد هي أخطر من نظام علينا وأعظم الإرهابيين انضموا إليه واجتمعوا عنا بس صارت لنا أرضية من وراء بشار وعوانه لأنه بشار مستعد يتعامل مع الجن مشان ينهي علينا يقضي على شعبه. والنقطة الأهم إنه داعش والإرهابيين إذا تموا هيك بدهم يستفحلوا ويوصلوا لأوروبا إذا ما جانا دعم.
hung out with the guys, been chatting, talking about the situation. I'm going to head back to the safe house. Ma salam.
قطان احمد بالبير روح اجمل عنه.
سلام.
في حدا جوا؟
ما عم نعلم أطفالنا الشراسة ولا عم نعلم أطفالنا إنه يكون في عنده ردة فعل نفسية بأنه يتعقد من أمور الحروب والقتال وهالأمور هاي، لا بالعكس عم يتعلم شغلة كويسة بأنه يدافع عن حقه اللي هو ما حدا غيره بيحسن يدافع عنه.